Let's talk about Houston, because when we had our conversations about power rankings top 10, if I'm not mistaken, I had them around 5 or 6. I really like the moves that they made, especially on their defense. Bringing in Danielle Hunter, opposite side of Will Anderson. Bringing in Danigo Autry from a division rival. You go and you bring in Azeez Al-Shaair. I mean, they really made some excellent moves on the defensive side. Now, on top of it, now you go and you make some more moves on the offensive side. We were happy that they brought back Dalton Schultz. We were happy about them bringing in Joe Mixon. I think I would have liked to see them be more in competition to bring in Saquon Barkley, really give them that next level running back, that next level weapon there, especially understanding Joe Mixon simply hasn't been that same level of running back, especially these last couple of years. But now you go on opposite side of Nico. Now we're now wondering, when is Tank Dell going to be at 100% to start? Is he going to be at 100% to start the season? Is it going to take 4 weeks? How long until he's back? No, we have Stephon Diggs opposite side of Nico Collins. I mean, this is exactly what you would dream of if you are a Houston Texans fan and you have one. Well, let me say 2. Let me not be disrespectful. Because at the forefront, we obviously are thanking CJ Stroud. Because what a franchise quarterback does to your rebuild is drastic. When you know you have a guy, it makes all these moves easier. We know that we can really overextend ourselves because we have a guy that we can win with right now. And while he's on this rookie contract, we're going to do everything we can to put the best supporting cast around him. And next, I want to shout out their GM, of course, Nick Caserio. He's been here since 2021. He's done an excellent job, of course, hitting on the franchise quarterback in a CJ Stroud, using that pick that they had to trade up from, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, with the Cleveland Browns pick, to trade up to pick 3 with the Arizona Cardinals, giving away their, actually, I'm wrong. They used their pick in this draft. They gambled it. They said, hey, we're going to be a lot better than what people think, Andrew. Don't think that we didn't know that you were one of those guys that thought that you would be one of the top 5 picks. You'd be giving the Cardinals a top 5 pick. I was wrong, because CJ Stroud proved to be a lot better than any of us could have ever imagined. They used their first in this draft, and they go and they get Will Anderson at pick 3. He goes and wins the defensive rookie of the year. They go and they hit on Tank Dell in round 3. They go in last year's, or 2 years ago, they go and they draft Derek Stingley. In round 2, they draft Jalen Petrie. In his first draft, did not have a first or a second round pick, drafts Nico Collins. He has done an excellent job of putting an unbelievable group of players around a franchise quarterback in such a short amount of time. And doing this after trading Deshaun Watson, who at the time was their franchise piece, and getting the return that they did from Deshaun Watson, 3 first-round picks from the Cleveland Browns, that they're still going to have assets going forward from that trade. That is probably the worst trade, one of the worst trades in NFL history. I can't really talk too much. Wear a Broncos shirt. Russell Wilson, bad trade too. But that Deshaun Watson trade is pretty damn bad. But the two of them are going to be a great duo going forward. It really starts with, of course, CJ Stroud. I understand the player is the one that has to go out there and ball the hell out. But it's fun times in Houston. And this is a team that contenders is always going to be something I worry about, understanding that you have the beast over there in Kansas City, like Riv already mentioned. You have to respect them. But damn, this is damn close to me putting them in that conversation. I mean that honestly.
I think the only thing that's stopping us is that CJ Stroud, still so young in year 2. You got a year 2 head coach, offensive play caller. I think that's really the only thing stopping me from putting them in contender status, because I look at the AFC South, Jacksonville, the Colts, I do think Anthony Richardson is going to be fantastic, and the Titans. I feel very strong that they're going to go and win that division, maybe with ease too, with how great this roster is. They have arguably, we just did the top 5, but they probably have a top 7 to 8 weapons room in the NFL as we stand right now. Stephon Diggs, I don't think he's washed. I don't think those last 8 or 9 games of the season is actually what Stephon Diggs is right now. Is he a top 5 receiver in the league still? I'm not sure if he is still going to be at that height, especially because he's going to have to share the field with 3 other great pass catchers when you include Dalton Schultz, Tank Dell once he's healthy, and of course Nico Collins, who had a breakout season last year. You just got to hope that Stephon Diggs, the issues he had in Buffalo, don't carry over to Houston. And I'm probably being optimistic here because I don't think he's going to see the same amount of targets that he did in Buffalo. In Buffalo, these last few seasons, he was the league leader multiple times in terms of targets. Him and Josh Allen. Josh Allen was peppering him with targets. Every single season, he was amongst the top, if not the number 1 player in targets. And with all of these weapons, I don't know if he's going to be that involved. But I think when you add Stephon Diggs to this offense, you saw how great CJ Stroud was. And even though their offensive line, I don't think is fantastic. Of course, you have Laramie Tunsil, but outside of that, there's no one I really love there. He still had one of the lower pressure to sack numbers in the NFL last season. And for a rookie, too, it's one of the more impressive things you can do. We discussed this a little bit last episode with Jaden Daniels, because you see a guy like Bryce Young, I want to say was number 1 in the league last year. So when you see and when you recognize that you have a super talented player like CJ Stroud, you have him on that rookie deal, and you have defensive players in peace with drafting guys like Derek Stingley and Will Anderson in years part, but then pairing them with free agents like Danielle Hunter, you're kind of having this perfect marriage. This is like the blueprint way to rebuild a franchise. You draft CJ Stroud, you hit on the head coach and offensive coordinator, you already have a couple of weapons, and you trade for a true wide receiver 1 while bringing in other pieces around to kind of fill in the spots. It's the blueprint to how you rebuild a franchise. Everyone wants to do it. The Jets try to do the same exact thing when you sign when you draft your quarterback number 2 overall. You hire the 49ers guy in the West Coast offense. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them. But if you're a Texans fan, I mean, there were some dark years there in between Deshaun and getting CJ Stroud. I know it wasn't super long, but there were some bad quarterback plays. There was some questionable head coaching hires that only last for a season, and you could tell that they were a lame duck. So the fact that where they are now, which is to me the clear number 1 in the AFC South, I mean, you can't predict or you couldn't expect anything better.
No.
What I'm most interested to see is how these players are going to play together. Tank Dell, that was an interesting dynamic with him, because he got hurt last year, unfortunately, and the way he's built, you can argue, is a bit injury prone. He's on the smaller side, so those hits will linger on more for him. So I feel like not only was this move a move to strengthen your receiving core, it was also Tank Dell insurance, because he's a rookie. You don't have much of a sample size of if he can stay healthy or not. This was to assure that they have 2 wide receivers in the postseason that defenses have to game plan for. The Texans, they're doing everything the right way and how they're supposed to do it. But there's now a lot of pressure on Bobby Slowick. Is Bobby Slowick last year coming from the 49ers tree? His formations are very condensed. On early downs, the Texans were 25th in pass frequency, even though they had a top 10 EPA when they passed the ball on early downs. A big reason why they didn't pass the ball more is because you have to keep defenses honest and playing the run, so they would get a lot of single high looks, and that led to their efficiency passing the ball. How Slowick runs the offense, it's condensed looks. It's 12 personnel. So now you add Stephon Diggs into the mix. That offense has to spread out more. Will you be able to run the same offense last year with 2 guys that you trust at receiver now versus this year? And now CJ Stroud plays a totally different way. With these Kyle Shanahan quarterbacks, we always see that they have guardrails within the offense in place. They do things a certain way. But when you add a blue chip player like Stephon Diggs, it forces you as an OC to adapt and to try to maximize every player on the roster and every receiver. So what I'm curious to see is CJ Stroud going to play in a similar offensive system that he played in last year, or this year are they going to ask him to do more, be more shotgun based, be more empty based, and scan and navigate the field? So that's the leap that I'm looking for with CJ Stroud. But history shows that whenever rookies or first-year starters get a weapon like this, they are in the MVP conversation. And I think when you have a team as talented as this team, as the Texans on offense, CJ Stroud realistically should be an MVP candidate. And I feel like there is no pushback that anybody should have in saying that the Texans are the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs. They are. I mean, not only do you add a receiver of Stephon Diggs' caliber to CJ Stroud in that offense, but Danielle Hunter, 16.5 sacks, is now added to the defensive line of Will Anderson. He's there. Will Anderson could be one of the best edge rushers in the league, and you add Danielle Hunter, the secondary is going to be sound. It now gives DeMeco Ryans more reins to toy around with this defense and ways to confuse offenses. There isn't another AFC team that I look at and I say, you know what, the Texans aren't as talented as them. They match up with every single team in the AFC.
But being a threat to Kansas City, specifically Kansas City, you still wouldn't put the Bengals over them? Because I think you can make the argument for number 3, but I would still probably have the Bengals as the biggest
I
threat.
still don't love that defense from the Bengals. I understand you have Joe Burrow, you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins.
Who knows about T?
But my thing that I come back to is I still can't trust this defense where the rush defense was not good by any means last season. The secondary, like Joel mentioned, is young, but they showed some promise towards the end of the season. Still have to see how they develop going into this upcoming season. I look at the Texans, understand that, I mean, what really is their hole?
The Texans have a better team.
I think they have a better team.
They have a better team.
I think they have a better
If you're putting the Bengals over the Texans, it's simply because you believe Joe Burrow is that much better of a quarterback than CJ Stroud that he could mask all the weaknesses on the Bengals.
Is that the case?
I don't think so, but I've seen Joe Burrow beat Patrick Mahomes already. I saw when Joe Burrow was healthy last year, dominate the San Francisco 49ers. I know they've lost some pieces, but I just want to give the Bengals their credit too.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with respecting Joe. I'm fine with respecting the Bengals for what history's shown us.
I think that's fair to have the Texans 3. So maybe I can't.
I'm just going
off
off both sides of the ball. Offensively, it's fine to say that, hey, the Bengals can be right there with the Texans. They've shown it, especially when healthy. But the defense right now, I mean, the veterans that they acquired in this offseason, I feel like it's just shaping up that they're going to be the safer defense to choose going in.
The Jets 4 on that list.
If I can count on them being healthy, I could put them high, but I can't count on that.
Sure. Gotta win the division first, buddy.
I really had
You
the
think the
Jets
Bills
high
still
last
going to win the
season,
division?
too.
Until they lose it.
Ah,
yes.
that's what I had. I had the Texans at 5, Jets at 6.
Well, right now, the Texans, they're plus 1,500 to win the Super Bowl. This is according to FanDuel, by the way. 7th in odds, plus 700 to win the AFC, and plus 110 to win the AFC
Do you
South.
have the teams above them? I can just look.
Plus 110 to win the AFC South.
If I were to guess, I would say the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Lions, the Ravens. They're tied with the Bills.
Bengals.
The Bengals, I think, might be above them or tied, same odds or similar odds. The Eagles might be one of those teams, although I'm not sure.
Detroit, maybe.
All right, so the Niners are 1 at plus 550. Of course, I have ad block on. The Chiefs are 2nd at 650. Ravens are 3rd at plus 900. Lions are 4th plus 12. Bills still 1,400.
I respect the GOAT.
Bengals
Best
are
quarterback
tied
rating.
with them 1,400, and then there's the Texans at plus
Where the
1,500,
Jets
like
at?
you mentioned. The Jets are not in the top 10.
Where are the Eagles? Respectful.
The Eagles are right after the Texans at plus 16.
I'll put $10 in that.
Now, what do you think about the Cowboys being at plus 18?
Whatever.
People are wasting their money.
They'll know.
Cowboys have a better chance than the Jets.
They'll know better soon enough.
The Packers are at plus 2.
Oh,
Now,
I
Joel.
might put 10 on that.
Maybe.
Wait, you should.
That's crazy.
Plus 2.
Plus 2?
Plus
Win it.
2.
You
To
could
win the whole
always,
thing.
you could always hedge in the
set the
Super Bowl
claim,
too if
you
they
know?
make
Plus
it.
2,000?
Plus 2,000.
Oh, that's a great deal. That's a bargain. I would do it.
That is, no, it's a bargain. Fair enough.
Plus 2,000.
I would do that.
That's
There's a lot
something
of
I would throw
teams-
$10 on.
Win
There's a
200.
lot of teams ahead of the Packers that I feel more confident the Packers over them.
Didn't you had them go to the Super Bowl?
You had Jordan Love win an MVP.
No, I said he could be an MVP candidate. I didn't have him win an MVP.
No,
Let
but
him
you
go to
had
the Super Bowl.
Jordan. You had Jordan and the Packers going to
Yeah.
the whole thing and winning it.
You said that
I
already.
think they can go to Super Bowl. I don't know about winning.
You said that
No,
he
you
can
said they're
go
going, though.
But
That-
still, bro, you could hedge. You get
Chiefs
10 on
versus
200.
Packers.
Bro, Chiefs
You're
don't have
chilling.
Legarius anymore. There's a little bit of a weakness now.
Yeah, but it would be Chiefs Packers next year, Super Bowl.
Imagine
So
what
put up-
Dontavian
put up
Wicks would
plus
do to that
2,000.
secondary.
Oh my god.
Do some things, man. He would do some-
I'm here for that. I'd be a huge Packers fan.
No, I think that's a matchup though.
I'm
That
gonna
is
have to
my
get a
matchup.
cheesehead if that happens.
That is the matchup I got early on. Chiefs versus Packers.
Where are
I
the
like
Jets, man? Disrespect.
That's insane.
I gotta wait and see them.
Nah.
I'm not gonna build any offseason hype for the Jets this year.
Not you more.
All in on the Texans defeating Thanos. Oh man, I would love that.
Bills and Eagles early Super Bowl.
No way.
Have you seen that they're doing
I'd be
this
a loser if I
thing?
didn't pick my teams.
Respect that.
They're doing this thing with CJ
Can't pick the
Stroud
Broncos. We're cooked.
against Patrick Mahomes, and through the years, there have been a lot of quarterbacks that they've compared Mahomes to the Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning of this era. It was Deshaun Watson at first. That was the first one. Then it was Josh Allen. Then it became Joe Burrow. Now I think it's CJ Stroud.